The rally has been going on since around 3:30. It took a while for the organization to get rolling, and there was some disagreement on how strong their message should be. But whatever the problems, the message was clear. The teachers and the parents here want to keep their principles.
Mr. Mobbs, and what an absolute doll he is.
The lack of information, the lack of facts we have make it seem under the table, and we would just like everything out in the open, because the lack of facts is creating a lack of morale, I think, in the school system right now. Everyone wonders what's going on, whether it's a vendetta, just what it is. If we could have the facts, then I think we could make a more cogent decision on the matter.
Mother's Day took on another meaning today for this group. This festive outing was sponsored by the National Organization for Women to recognize past and present contributions that women have made to society. Proclaimed as Aloysius Larch Miller Day by the mayor of Oklahoma City, a larch tree has been planted in Memorial Park as a living symbol for the dedication and courage of the pioneer woman.
This land was made for you and me.
Aloysius Larch Miller was a leading Oklahoma suffragist who died for women's right to vote in this country. On January 31st, 1920, Aloysius left her sickbed against her doctor's orders to speak at a special session of the Oklahoma legislature. It had been called to debate a resolution that would ratify the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution. 2 days later, Aloysius died from exhaustion.
And evidently she won the men over, because 22 days after she died, it was ratified in the state of Oklahoma. And she died for the cause for women to have the right to vote in Oklahoma. So that was the beginning of equal rights.
62 years later, women in Oklahoma are still dedicated to the struggle for equal rights. Carol Lambert, Action 4.
I haven't reached that decision yet. They obviously are for me to sign a bill into law for the operations of an agency that would in effect close it down for 3 months is unacceptable to me as the Chief Administrative Officer of the state of Oklahoma. I find the actions to shut down state government to be irresponsible on the part of those few legislators who are leading this effort, and I hope that Representative McCaleb can lead the way in recalling this measure.
West Nichols Hills Elementary and one other school in town are the only ones that offer daycare and preschool for young children under the city school system. West Nichols Hills has been open 4 years. The parents say it is a good program and less expensive than if they had to take their children to a private school. But the school board doesn't see it that way. For one thing, Nichols Hills is about $5,000 in the hole, and it would take a hefty tuition increase to keep it going. The move to eliminate the preschool has many parents upset.
I'm a working mother, and it's very convenient. And my children has really improved. My daughter started writing at 3 years old, and now she's reading, and she's just 4.
I've had my children at another daycare, and they were not taking care of the property. I didn't find this out to the end of the school year.
The school director believes the school board is insensitive to the parents' concerns.
Well, they really didn't give us a fair chance to talk about the figures and facts that they presented. The parents don't have time to find another school. They're satisfied with this school and willing to make up any deficit that we have.
But school board member Betty Hill thinks the deficits will continue to grow.
The purpose of the preschool was to help those schools grow in enrollment, and they had to reach over 200, and they have not reached that enrollment since it started.
Plus the fact that it's in financial trouble.
It's in financial trouble, and we as a district are in financial trouble.
The concerned parents will be meeting here tonight to see if they can come up with some money to keep the school open. But they're also worried about another meeting the school board is going to have May 17th. They're fearful the board will vote to close the entire West Nichols Hills Elementary School. They see the closing of the daycare and the preschool as the first step in that direction. Bella Shaw, Action 4 at West Nichols Hills Elementary School.
Over 150 of the Special Olympians are swimmers, and they were there in force today, with coaches, parents, and volunteers to cheer everyone on, creating a healthy atmosphere for all events. Freestyle, backstroke, 25 and 50 yards, and the 100-yard relay. Last March, we met Mark Porter from Putnam City. He's had 5 practice sessions since then, leading up to this day, the Special Olympics, and the big crowd.
Yeah, it's a pretty big crowd.
Pretty big, yeah, pretty big.
Does it scare you?
A little bit, you know.
Thanks to volunteers, the Special Olympics build self-confidence, which then helps in the classroom, at home, and eventually the job. The oath for the Special Olympics goes this way: let me win. But if I cannot win, let me be brave in the attempt.
Yes, we have received a letter from Senator Strom Thurman, who is chairman of the Parent Committee of the Judiciary Committee, in which he agrees with us that he believes that before a hearing is conducted, we ought to have a right to choose the witnesses that we present to that committee to refute the testimony that was given to him earlier, and that we ought to have a right to respond fully and completely to the earlier allegations that were made, and that we ought to have a right to know who any new witnesses might be who might be presented at that hearing, so that we'd have an opportunity to fully respond to any allegations that they might raise. The subcommittee, and he has asked and in fact inferred
This is one of approximately 30 bridges destroyed by floodwaters in Lincoln County. 7 inches of rain fell here in less than 6 hours. At one time, floodwaters reached as high as 12 feet. Officials estimate the damage in this county alone is in excess of $2 million.
Countywide, we've probably got 80 roads that's completely closed and about 15 bridges, major bridges, that's completely out. And we have applied for help through the Civil Defense. They're going to come out this afternoon and go with us. Lieutenant Governor, we took a helicopter ride with him and our state representative, Charlie Morgan, and they're going to try to help us. But there's no way with regular funds that we can get all this work done.
Commissioner Poskey says money isn't the only problem.
My concern is right now is people taking our barricades down and coming down to look it over and see what's happening and don't put the barricades down and somebody comes up and runs off in it.
This is not only a problem in Lincoln County, but in other storm-stricken areas of the state. The Lieutenant Governor says statewide damages will be in excess of $240 million. Commissioner Poskey says it'll take about 2 years to rebuild all the bridges. That is, of course, if federal money is used and Mother Nature cooperates. Ben McCain, Action 4 in Lincoln County.
The targets in these areas are not simulated aircraft crashes. There are other targets. You know, we're not always out looking for aircraft all the time. You're looking for people or civil defense type targets.
Civil Air Patrol volunteers spend a great deal of their time searching for missing airplanes, but they've also been known to hunt for missing kids or damaged property. No matter what they're looking for, these practice sessions help hone searching skills.
Southwest of Raleigh, going back to Stillwater, and the target in that area, those green tanks. Okay. All right, good luck.
Today's objective is to spot some brightly colored oil tanks scattered around Stillwater. In order to find the tanks, the pilots and observers will have to utilize their hours of previous training and coordination from ground-bound helpers.
For the pilots and crews, this training is very good because they have to flight plan, they have to fly the grids, they have to observe to find the targets that we have out there, and so for them it is excellent. It is good training.
36 degrees, 36 degrees, 4 minutes. North, 96 degrees, 96 degrees, 25 minutes west. Thank you, sir.
Some crews spotted all the targets, some did not. But the volunteers did work a few bugs out of their routine, and they learned a valuable lesson. They found out the Civil Air Patrol can find some missing objects besides airplanes. Scott Wallace, Action 4 in Stillwater.
The quickly rising floodwaters didn't take most persons by surprise. Some 200 Kingfisher residents were quick to respond to law officials' pleas to evacuate the low-lying areas on the western edge of town. The family sought shelter in an auditorium adjoining the police station, hoping for a little sleep, trying to make the best of a bad situation. One young man couldn't sleep.
he had been separated from his family. One of the family members was confined to a wheelchair.
There's two brick homes. How far can you get out there?
You can't get past that second bridge out there.
Second bridge?
Yeah. You know where that ranchero was in off the side of the road?
Yeah.
That's as far as I can go.
Help came from Oklahoma City. A Red Cross disaster van arrived with cots and blankets that would make the night a little more tolerable for the flood victims. Shortly before dawn, the creeks were well out of their banks, and much of Main Street, as you can see, was impassable. And many of the residents of Kingfisher faced the prospects of losing everything they had.
Hey, go slow. Go fall. Just don't get scared. I'm not scared. Wouldn't it come out in the first time? It'll go under if it comes that much higher. I'll lose everything I got.
What have you lost so far?
I've lost a brand new air conditioning unit, a $200 lawnmower, and about $300 worth of tools.
Old-timers in the Kingfisher area remember all the big floods. This one, they say, was one of the worst. It was nearly tragic near Gary, where Bill Ross helped in a dramatic rescue.
Ever since Braniff Airlines shut down last week, a number of its customers have probably been wondering what's going to happen to the airlines. Is it going to reopen? Are other airlines going to pick up the flights? Well, no one really knows. But Airport Director Leroy Hansen knows that Braniff Airlines owes Oklahoma City about $83,000 for space it used at the airport. And as long as that space used for things like luggage, ticket counters, gate positions, and passenger loading areas remains empty, Oklahoma City can expect to lose $41,000 a month.
One of the questions we have is, since we still have an agreement with Braniff, what will be the eventual use of the area that was occupied by Braniff? And we do not have an answer to that question at this time.
But at this time, it is clear that other airlines will start to move in and pick up where Braniff left off. And although Braniff was the largest passenger carrier in Oklahoma City, its demise has given air travelers other flights to choose from. Bella Shaw, Action 4 at Will Rogers World Airport.
The water began rising out of the banks of the South Canadian River late yesterday. The spillage along a 3-mile stretch on Rock Creek and Northwest 72nd covered roadways and low-lying residential areas. Just days ago, the waters within the banks of the South Canadian River provided a scenic view for the people of this area. But as the water jumped its home boundary and spread to uncharted areas, homes and possessions were quickly lost to the rage of the rising river. Quickly and swiftly, the water enveloped land and homes, transforming yards and gardens into waterways. Many of the residents fled, taking little with them and leaving much behind. The Norman police guarded the area to make sure that if belongings were lost, it would not be from looters. The water, measuring a few feet high in places, dwarfed all around it. The high waters made everything look a bit out of place, with the exception of a few little creatures. Debbie Mash, Action 4 in Norman.
Enid in north central Oklahoma, population 50,000. Unemployment 3.4%. People from surrounding states have moved in to take advantage of the bright economic picture. But is it really so bright? Last week, this portable drilling rig company laid off another 116 people. Sounds like a small number? Well, to Enid, it's a lot. Agribusiness, one of Enid's mainstays. It's been a big boon to the economy, but high interest rates are changing all that. In fact, unemployment here is actually going up. And the biggest reason is an oil glut. Things started to change around December of last year. People who came rushing into town to find jobs on the oil rigs found jobs drying up. Oil production is down, and unemployment is up. Last week, 500 people came into the employment office in Enid. This past Monday, 100 people came in seeking employment. Statistics may show Enid with a 3.4% unemployment rate for March, but don't think jobs are waiting for you on every corner.
And they show up here knocking on our door, so to speak, expecting to find a lot of jobs open, and it's not true.
A.K. Armstrong, who heads the Enid Employment Office, doesn't want people to get the wrong impression.
When there was a story released, I think 3 months ago, about Enid and Abilene, Texas tying, and at that time, well, then people started coming in, giving us calls, writing letters. Hey, I hear unemployment's low in Enid. Send me a list of jobs available. And that's not really the true picture.
So while Enid has the lowest unemployment rate in the nation, it still is high for the people here. And that's what has them worried. Bella Shaw, Action 4 in Enid, Oklahoma.
It's a scene that's occurred over and over again this week. Families fleeing from their homes because of high waters. Loved ones being led hand in hand, others carried to safety. It's a scary experience to suddenly find yourself out in the cold rains, knee-deep in water, walking away from your home. It's even more frightening when you can't make that walk yourself. But everyone pulls together. Friends, neighbors, and disaster volunteers. For over 100 years, the Red Cross has been there, coordinating emergency efforts and setting up shelters so that the homeless will have a warm place to go. Monitoring severe weather so that Red Cross crews are on the scene immediately, ready to lend a hand. This week, flooding sent volunteers all over the state, from Kingfisher to N.O.W.
We've been on alert down here now for a full week, and every day has brought a whole new set of circumstances, and it seems like a different area of the state becomes involved, and by the time we get strung out from Kingfisher to Weatherford and down to Cleveland County, the Norman area, our resources have been spread rather thin.
So they're asking for your help, especially if you have previous Red Cross training. It's a chance for you to give to others and receive something special in return.
Any time that you have expended or any sacrifice you've made to help really is worthwhile when you see what you're doing for these people that are so much in need.
Sherry Sellers, Action 4.
This used to be the cosmetology building for Midwest City Vocational School, but the N.O.W. public school system just bought it for $3,000 and plans to move it south to N.O.W. at a cost of $25,000. To make the move, workmen will have to cut the structure into 4 sections, and the sections will be loaded onto 2 trailers for transfer to N.O.W. The small town of N.O.W. is building a new elementary school, but it will not be big enough to handle the school population. And the old cosmetology building will be reassembled behind the new school to help ease the overcrowding. Getting enough classroom space for students in N.O.W. is a never-ending problem.
The growth of N.O.W. schools is not going to stop over the next 10 years. Now, I hope that it will taper off, and I think after 1990 possibly it will. But our estimates are now that we will double again in size in the next 4 to 5 years, and probably then double again before the end of the decade. And we don't see any end in that.
N.O.W. is trying anything, like converting old Army barracks into classrooms for some students. Cramped conditions have become so much a part of school that it doesn't seem to bother students or teachers. Every time one class graduates, the next one is bigger. Moving a few classes into storage rooms is on the drawing board right now. Children of the N.O.W. school system learn early that classroom space is limited. Teachers try to compensate by letting children do as many fun activities as they can. N.O.W. administrators say they're not after the biggest schools, just some with a little bit more breathing space. Ed Stewart, Action 4 in N.O.W.
The courtroom was packed with prospective jurors. Over 100 people were summoned. The jury of 8 women and 4 men were sworn in. Surprisingly, one of the jurors was a grade school teacher and remembers having Carrie in her social studies class. Judge Ray Wall wasted no time and immediately instructed the prosecution and defense to make their opening statements. The prosecution saying evidence, including a tape-recorded confession, will show that Roger Dale Hayes committed the crime. The defense saying not so, that 3 people were involved, including Roger's mother, a friend, and Carrie Kendall's stepfather. This line of defense was not brought out in the other trial.
Today's study focused on microvascular surgery. In teaching students the intricate procedure, plastic tubing is used to represent a human artery or blood vessel. High-powered microscopes now make it possible to magnify the operation so surgeons can easily view the tiny operating field. The needle and thread that are used are so small they can pass through a human hair. Advanced technology has definitely been the key to bringing microsurgery to the forefront.
Microsurgeon today, with the use of magnification and with the use of an operating microscope, can see things at the operating table that's not been possible before. And with the increase in vision and with the use of very fine instruments and very fine sutures, the microsurgeon can repair very small and tiny structures with a precision that's not been possible before.
Surgeons are excited about the future of this new field, especially in the area of reconstructive microsurgery. Research is underway to solve the body's problem in accepting foreign tissue. If this breakthrough comes, experts say that virtually all organs and body parts will then be subject to successful transplanting. Carol Lambert, Action 4.
$1,250 students were evacuated from U.S. Grant High School on South Pennsylvania. The evacuation took place shortly after 9 o'clock this morning. The reason? A natural gas leak. A man mowing grass near the school hit a gas line. He wasn't injured. School officials immediately began to evacuate students, and fire officials were called in.
Anytime we have a natural gas leak of this size, if there is ignition of the gas, you can have a fire, have an explosion, and that's why we move very promptly to secure the area and make sure that doesn't happen.
A lot of students thought it was a bomb threat, but later on we found out that it was a custodian who was mowing the lawn, and he hit a natural gas valve, and it just put a big old leak in it. And
after the line was tapped, students returned to their classes. Ben McCain, Action 4 on South Pennsylvania.